Rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, let me hold off on the roll call.
Yes, please. Good evening. On tonight's agenda, we have a still open public hearing for area variance 2024 AV-1 John Terlaga, 83 Fenway Drive. A public hearing for area variance 2024 AV-6 Meredith Carpenter, 233 Gailey Hill Road. A public hearing for area variance 2024 AV-7 Dorothy Ophuls, 39 Greenbrier Lane. A review of new application 2024 AV-8 Brian Giuliano, 33 Woodward Drive. Acceptance of minutes from August meeting and new and old business. And now, Karen, you can take the roll.
Matt Palich,
Present.
Kayla Jarrell,
Here.
Mike Bordeaux,
Here.
Rael Zubel.
Here.
Burgess Ovitt,
Here.
Sonia Harris. Sonia is an alternate, but she is present. I got everybody?
Did you get Mike?
Yep.
Okay. I guess you got everybody. Okay, first item on the agenda is the continuance of public hearing for variance 2024 AV-1 John Terlaga, 83 Fenway Drive. Distance between structures variance. The applicant is requesting to leave the public hearing open until spring. Karen, please correct me if I am wrong. The applicant has contacted Karen, says he is not in a position to construct the carport at this time. And he is also considering moving the carport to a location which does not require a variance. I have no issue with leaving the public hearing open until springtime. Does anyone have any issues with that? No. Karen, did Mr. Terlaga give you a time frame?
No, he did not. He just said spring.
Then I will make a motion to keep public hearing for area variance 202V24 AV-1 John Terlaga, 83 Fenway Drive open until the March 2025 Town of Lake Luzerne Zoning Board of Appeals meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed.
Item number 2, public hearing for area variance 2024 AV-6 Meredith Carpenter, 233 Gailey Hill Road, applicant asking for relief of 10 foot 3 inches for a front yard setback. Karen, the public hearing notice has been issued.
Yes, the public hearing notice was published September 3rd. In your packet, you have letters. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 letters of support. They're from Katrina Catwell, 321 Gailey Hill Road, Colleen and Sean Cook at 207 Old Stage Road, Ed Babcock at 321 Gailey Hill Road. And when I came into the meeting tonight, on top of my papers was another one that the town clerk's office had placed there from Mary Alice Barnaby, 233 Gailey Hill Road. No objection to the variance. So you have a total of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, sorry.
Okay, with that, I will open the public hearing for area variance 2024 AV-6 Meredith Carpenter, 233 Gailey Hill Road, front yard variance requested. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this issue? That makes it easy. Then I'll close the public hearing for area variance 2024 AV-6, Meredith Carpenter, 233 Gailey Hill Road. I know you have in your packet an addendum to the application that Meredith provided to us for our last meeting. Unless someone has some objection, I would like to feed those comments into the review to the response to the questions. Is that okay with everyone?
You're gonna read this whole thing.
I will try to summarize.
Abbreviate it.
I will try to summarize the salient points. It was impressive. Has everyone had a chance to review the addendum?
Yes.
Okay, so everyone's familiar with it. Okay. With that, I would like to go into the application. This is for a 233 Gailey Hill Road, requesting a variance of 10 feet 3 inches for the setback of the garage. The setback should be 60 feet 6 inches, and the garage is at 50 feet 3 inches. It is seeker exempt. County planning is not required, and there is an APA non-jurisdictional letter on file. I'd like to get into the application. The history, the property was purchased in May of 22. At the time of the purchase and sale, the garage, which she's seeking the variance for, was under construction, had an active building permit. As a condition of the bank's lending for the property, the sellers produced a certificate of occupancy purportedly for the garage that indicated to the applicant, her lawyer, and the bank that the garage conformed to all town and county zoning, permitting, and regulation requirements. Description of proposed action: I'm seeking a 10-foot, 3-foot setback variance under Article 5, dimensional requirements. B, average front yard for the garage, which sits at its closest point 50 feet 3 inches from the center line of Gailey Hill, while the single-family dwelling sits at its closest point 60 feet 6 inches from the center line of Gailey Hill. Does anyone have any questions about the history or the proposed action? Okay, in reviewing of the variance standards, question number 1. Describe how the requested variance will not alter the character of the larger neighborhood or impact adjacent properties. The response is the garage is not visible, nor is it directly abut any adjacent properties. The structure does not interfere with or impose on any public lands, roads, utilities, or in any other way interfere with the actions of the town, neighboring residents. Additionally, and this is from the original application, the revaluation of the property on the purchase of the sale in 2022 reflects the value added to the garage. Among other features, more than doubling the assessed value of the property, this valuation bolsters adjacent property values, increasing average comparative property values, and economically benefits the town. Now, in the, oh, yes, please, sorry, thank you. What I got to do right now is figure out what I just did with Meredith's addendum. Thank you. If you looked at the addendum, there is significant information provided by Meredith regarding adjacent properties, which do not meet the current required setback requirements for various attached or detached structures. She says she has identified 16 houses on Gailey Hill Road that do not meet these requirements, and the properties are listed. The question is, describe how the requested variance will not alter the character of the larger neighborhood or impact adjacent properties. From my perspective, there is nothing adjacent, or that could change. Directly across from the property, that's a pretty tough piece of property to develop. That's a pretty steep slope. And even if that property were developed, I do not see how again, remembering we deal as if the structure does not exist. How a structure which is only 50 feet off the road versus the required 60 feet would have any impact on the character of the larger neighborhood or impact adjacent properties. Part of that is because the road bends. So if you're driving on Gailey Hill, the house and the garage appear to be the same distance. It's the road that changes. That is my evaluation of the response to question number 1. Rail?
I don't see where that being 10 foot too close is gonna alter the character of the neighborhood or any adjacent properties.
Burgess?
I don't believe it's gonna alter the neighborhood. I don't like comparing them to other places. I got caught speeding and nobody else did, but that's not a excusable. But it's not gonna alter the area. I go up there every day. I see it.
Thank you. Mike?
Yeah, I feel that it won't alter the character of the neighborhood at all.
Kayla?
I don't feel that there's any alter to the character as well.
Thank you. Question number 2, describe what alternatives have been explored to achieve a solution other than a variance. Responses: per lengthy conversations and notifications to Karen Putney, there are no other options to achieve a solution to the violation aside from receiving a variance or removing the structure. Removing the structure would create a significant economic hardship for me and have an adverse effect on the value of the property. I have spoken to Karen. Those really are the only alternatives, either the variance or remove the structure. So I think question 2 has been answered. Meredith has explored other solutions. The other solution would be to remove the structure, which would have an adverse impact on her property. Rail?
That is correct. They are her only 2 so-called solutions, but it's too bad she was kind of put in a corner here and, buying the property and having all this up. It's a shame that it has happened, but I'm happy with the questions answered.
Burgess?
Well, I think it's answered. She inherited this mess.
Mike?
The questions have been answered. She's explored alternatives and solutions.
Kayla?
I believe other alternatives have been explored.
Question number 3, explain whether this requested variance is substantial. The response is the requested variance is not substantial as I'm only seeking relief for a 10-foot setback difference that as a result of a slight bend in Gailey Hill towards the property with the garage situation. Additionally, there are multiple other properties in the Gailey Hill Road that are closer to the center than the required variance, and specifies 283 and 321 Gailey Hill Road. Meredith, did you have additional information on this?
Just the other houses, I guess, would also be associated with that question, but you've already read that in, so.
So we're looking at a variance of basically 10 feet on 60 feet. it's kind of,
It's roughly 16%.
yeah.
You asked the math teacher. I said,
No, that part I knew, but thank you. It's 16% substantial. I guess it's, depends on the individual you're asking. I don't believe that that what she is seeking, is substantial. Rail, Burgess,
I believe 16% is substantial, but I don't care.
Mike,
All right, so I do not feel that it's substantial.
Kayla.
I do not feel that it's substantial.
Question number 4, describe how the requested variance will not have an adverse impact on physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood. The response is, as the building has already been constructed and in place for the last 5 years, and during the time that there have been, to my knowledge, no reports of an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood, I would in good faith infer that neither the building nor the variance will result
Continue.
in any physical or environmental adverse impacts. Additionally, as per the response letter from the Adirondack Park Agency to my jurisdictional inquiry J 20240629, the agency reviews indicates that the existing garage and further interior work related to the structure does not require a permit or variance from the APA. This decision from the APA strongly supports that the structure will not have any adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions. Please see APA jurisdictional determination attached. And your addendum says you believe that this question has been well and fully answered, and I agree with your response in your addendum. I know we are not supposed to take into account that the structure is already there. But the fact that it's been there for 5 years and there's been no complaints is something I wish I could take into consideration, but I cannot. Therefore, having driven past the structure multiple times, I do not believe that the requested variance will have an adverse impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood. Rail? Burgess,
I would agree, no adverse impact on the neighborhood.
Mike,
I would agree too. There's no adverse impact on the neighborhood.
Kayla?
I agree. No negative impact at all to the neighborhood.
Question number 5, describe how the requested variance is not a self-created difficulty. The response is the garage and the setback violation existed long before my purchase of the property. The building was permitted and constructed by the previous owners who also constructed the single-family dwelling on the property. I was unaware of the violation until a few months ago. The setback violation was only identified secondary to my efforts to bring the property fully into compliance with all town and county code ordinance and code. In addition, in the addendum, there's a statement during the town of Luzerne zoning board meeting on August 8th. It was stated by one or more board members that most, if not all, applications for which individuals seeking variance are self-created difficulties. I believe that would be me. While I justly acknowledge that in many cases, homeowners, either past or present, are duly aware of the condition of the property and the applicable zoning regulations to the extent that choosing to make an action that is not compliant with those existing standards requiring a variance to be applied. In my specific case, the unique set of factors related to the structure and my obtainment of it will be arguably determine this case not to be a self-created difficulty. The conditions are as follows, and there are 5 conditions which are specified. Meredith, I agree that in almost all cases, the requested variance is a self-created difficulty. From my personal perspective, I do not believe in your case that this is a self-created difficulty. This is something that unfortunately you bought into. I would say, despite the fact that you had an attorney for this purchase, something that was overlooked I have discussed the type of information which is with council and our ZEO, the type of information which is looked at during a title search. And since there were no violations on record, that information would not have been available to the person performing the title search. So I do not believe, and I think this is probably the first time I've said this, that this is not a self-created difficulty. Rail?
Yeah, I didn't think this is a self-created.
Burgess?
No, it's previous owner created, not hers.
Mike?
This is not a self-created difficulty.
Kayla?
Not self-created difficulty.
Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Meredith, do you have anything additional you'd like to say?
There's a mention in there of, my, the goal to resolve the other outstanding issues with the property, secondary to the speed pass. And that is my goal, is to resolve any and all violations in accordance with town policy. So should you pass the variance, that will be my, end goal for this process.
Just for my own curiosity, how did you come to learn that your property was in violation?
She asked questions.
I guess, why?
Did I ask questions?
Yeah.
That's a really good question. That's really wonderful.
A CO for up top.
Well, in order to start the construction, which I was planning to do on the garage, I did inquire with Karen about, the property conditions in the building, and I had actually also called her initially to ask a question about where the line between my property and the property next to me that had just been sold existed. And that's when she informed me of the issues, and I came down and saw the property jacket for the first time. And at that point, the only issue that was identified was the over height issue. But it was later that when I asked for a full review of the property, which again, maybe I shouldn't have asked that question, but when I asked for a full review of the property, this setback issue was identified. And so in order to get a permit to
What's all the height?
resolve the over height issue, it was determined that I need to get a variance for the setback issue as well.
So no good deed goes unpunished.
We still have a height issue, don't we, Karen?
She
That's
is
been going on
going
for
to
5
correct
years.
that. That's what was in part of that addendum that got sent to you. The plan is if she is granted this variance, that she's going to attach the garage to the house, which
Oh.
eliminates the height issue.
Right.
Okay.
So if somebody in town wants a full review on their house, to make sure if we didn't comply, we can just ask the town hall that.
Well, I can look through my file and, identify if there are any violations in the file or anything.
So like, was there a flag on the file that said this is too close to the road?
No height.
No,
But 5 years ago, we listened to this about the height.
Yes.
Same house.
the only problem was the height. And then as she stated, she asked me to make sure everything else was in order. And in doing that, I looked at the setback of what was there as opposed to what was submitted for the application for the garage, and it wasn't correct.
So,
And that's how we caught it.
so Meredith, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the intent is if this variance is approved, then you will not have to tear down your garage. And you will be able to attach your garage to your house, in which case the height concern goes away.
You just need a breezeway to go into those circular stairs, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, that's.
Thank you. I make a motion to accept area variance 2024 AV-6 Meredith Carpenter, parcel number 285.2-5.
Accept or approve.
Excuse me, approve area variance 2024 AV-6, 233 Gailey Hill Road.
Second that.
Karen, roll call, please.
Matt Palich?
Yes.
Rail Zubel?
Yes.
Mike Bordeaux?
Yes.
Burgess Ovitt?
Yes.
Kayla Jarrell?
Yes.
Sonia Harris? Oh, I'm sorry, Sonia, you don't get a vote. Sorry,
She just did. You can't take it back.
I gotta cross your name off here. So the motion is carried.
Thank you so much.
Thank
So
you.
we'll be in touch and we'll get that other part going.
Great, thank you. Wait, you're not in tomorrow.
No,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Good day.
Good luck.
What's that? Okay.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda is public hearing for area variance 2024 AV-7, Dorothy Opals, 39 Greenbrier Lane, requesting relief from the length of a retaining wall. Wall is over the allowed 25 feet. It is 60 feet in length. Karen, the public hearing has been issued, notice has been issued.
Public hearing was published September 3rd. Since then, one of the neighbors, George Lent, came in and looked at the file. He lives on Beach Drive. He has no issues with the retaining wall. On September 11th, Steve and Darlene Tansky, who are here, also came in, 269 Pleasant View, and they were in support of the retaining wall. And I just gave you tonight, off of my email, I checked it before the meeting, another letter of support from Philip and Gail Parker. I'm not sure if I see their, I don't see their address in here. East River Drive. And they're in support as well.
Thank you. And with that, I will open the public hearing for area variance 2024 AV-7, Dorothy Opals, parcel number 312.20-1-39.1, 39 Greenbrier Lane, seeking variance relief from local law number 3 of 2019, section 3, retaining walls not to exceed 25 feet. Post retaining wall is 60 feet. So, first of all, the individuals in the audience who are here to support this, is there something you'd like to say since you're here? And if you are, please come up to the podium and state your name and address.
My name's Steve Tansky.
Please speak into the podium. Yes, thank you.
Steve Tansky. I live at 269 Pleasant View, neighbor of Dorothy's, just the other side of the woods. I've looked at the retaining wall. I can honestly tell you I haven't reviewed the statute, but in my opinion, the wall is serving a definite purpose, and I personally would have no issues with the length of it. It seems necessary in my view,
Thank you.
in my limited construction experience that I have. But thanks for asking.
You showed up. I could not ask. Well, I could not ask, but that would not be right. Anyone else in the audience who wants to address this issue? Then I will close public hearing 2024 AV-7, Dorothy Opals, 39 Greenbrier Lane. This application is seeker exempt. Karen, do we have a response from county planning?
Yes, it's the next thing on your agenda for tonight. It came back with no significant community or countywide impacts.
Thank you. And there's a non-jurisdictional letter in file from the APA.
How did this come to light?
This came to light during an inspection by our short-term rental officer.
Okay.
When Dorothy was applying for a permit for a short-term rental, and Chris identified there was a retaining wall in excess of 25 feet. So that's how it came to be. Does anyone have any questions before we proceed? Back to this. And the history of the property, the house was built in the early 90s due to various places where dates were inscribed. We purchased the house in 2021, began rehabilitating the house due to many years of neglect. Proposed action. I'll read it. While repairing the home, damage was discovered to the side of the house parallel to the wall. The damage was so bad that the house had to be lifted and sill beams replaced along the entire side. When the house was set back and root cellar removed, it was left a void. The old foundation of root cellar concrete was repurposed to hold back the existing grade and redirect water coming from uphill so that it would pass safely around the front and back of the house instead of damming up on the side. In my way of thinking, the next statement is the proposed actions, variance type and distance. There's a make the wall 65 feet instead of 25 feet. That is the proposed action.
It's 60 feet,
60?
according to the map that she had done.
Do we know which is correct?
I think it's 60. I would go by the survey that was done.
I just have a question, Karen. I see the map, which is from RJM Drafting and Design. I do not see any stamps on this.
Don't have to stand on it.
So this is not a survey. This
No,
is,
but there is a.
well, I accept that the drawing shows that the wall is 60 feet. But this is not a survey.
Think. Let's look at this. Yeah, it is not stamped.
Why don't we just err on the side of caution and stick with 65?
We can stay with 65. I don't think don't think whether it's 60 or 65, but the applications to Rail's point, the application says 65 feet. The drawing is not stamped.
And the drawing does say plus or minus 60, so.
So 65 feet. Question number 1 is describe how the requested variance will not alter the character of the larger neighborhood or impact adjacent properties. The response is, we have received many compliments on the appearance of the wall, but even if it was not deemed so, it cannot be viewed from the street or neighboring properties. As far as impacting neighboring properties, it is approximately 50 feet from the closest neighbor and 150 feet from the other, both obscured by heavily wooded areas. The topography is such that no runoff can go to either property and is contained on ours. I was at the property yesterday. The requested variance for the length of the retaining wall doesn't do anything because 15 feet to the east of the retaining wall there is a soil cut, which redirects any water coming down the hill from actually reaching the retaining wall. It directs the water to the north to a swale on an adjacent property where there's a berm built, and the water coming from the southern side of the swale goes down the driveway and across the lawn. So it does not alter the retaining wall does not alter the character of the neighborhood. But the retaining wall itself, from my perspective, does nothing to change the drainage on the property. It is the swale, which is uphill of the retaining wall, which is redirecting the water from coming into the foundation, which caused the rot, which had to be repaired. Rail? Okay, Burgess,
I agree with Ralph.
Mike,
I feel that it will, I feel that there's no impact, that it won't alter the character of the neighborhood.
Kayla?
I feel there's no negative impact on the neighborhood.
Question number 2, describe what alternatives have been explored to achieve a solution other than a variance. The response is being a masonry and excavation contractor. Dorothy, I assume this is your son and not you. I resolved similar problems for other countless times. The material was already on site and the problem and solution were clear. I was unaware of a permanent variance was required, otherwise it would have been completed then. And the other resolution that has been proposed will come up at either a great expense, removing the wall, regrading and install drainage structures uphill and below, and will provide an inferior resolution that we are currently experiencing. Plants could aid in stabilizing the slope. However, they did not provide a physical water stop, can be breached in heavy storms. The house cannot bear the brunt of the hillside and its runoff unaided as previous damage has shown. The question is, what alternatives have been explored other than a variance? The response, part of the response is that any other resolution that has been proposed will become at a great expense and will provide inferior resolution that we are currently experiencing. I don't know what the expense is. Certainly, there was a cost savings involved in repurposing the foundation from the root cellar and turning it into a retaining wall rather than having to haul that material away. The alternative, from my perspective, is on the property, and that is a swale which has been cut to redirect the water. Rail?
I look at it as more of an aesthetic wall. Well, I like flower garden thing, but I'm happy questions answered.
Yeah, I agree. The question's answered.
It's not a question of whether the question is answered, it's do you agree with the answer?
I agree with the answer.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mike?
I agree with the answer. They tried to find some other things that they could do here.
Kayla?
I think the question was answered. I don't know. I think I'd like more detail on the other extensive or the other options that you said would be that come at greater expense. Other than removing the wall, obviously, is another option. So that alone answers the question. But is there more than that you explored is my question.
Honestly, I'm not sure if my son explored more. I just knew that there was such a big drop. But I believe he felt that that whole property would have to be graded all the way to the back. The water's coming straight down, but I'm not sure what you mean by the swale.
The swale, about 15 feet to the east of the retaining wall. There has been a trench cut in the hillside. A trench,
Yes.
a depression, such that the water coming down the hill flows into the trench and flows to the north and the south around the retaining wall. None of the water coming down the hillside gets to the retaining wall.
I didn't see that. I don't think we've ever seen that because we saw coming down, there is a big trench all the way down the driveway. But then it stops when you get to the corner of our home. But right above us, there's a straight drop down
There is not, there is, I have pictures
from East River, that drop.
from East River. It comes down and about 15 feet to the east of where the retaining wall is. A swale has been cut, a trench has been cut to redirect any water from the hillside. So the water from the hillside from East River down, down to 15 feet from your retaining wall is redirected by the swale. It never makes it to the retaining wall.
Do any of these pictures depict that?
I
Provided?
I don't think so.
I mean, I'm not, honestly, I'm not the professional. My son went to college for it, got a degree in it, so that's why he wrote that. He didn't just write it as just somebody. But I also know that the house was heavily rotted, you know, all around, so I don't know what
For
that
some
was.
reason, I guess.
Something, you know, was damaging the whole house.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Question number 3, explain why this requested variance is not substantial. The response is we feel this variance is substantial to the homeowners in the sense that it ensures the home will be secure and dry for many years to come. However, it is unsubstantial in the realm of variances. The wall cannot be reasonably be built any shorter and still be effective due to the dimensions of the house. In the application, it states variances must be based on extraordinary topographical or physical condition of the parcel. And that is exactly the case. The regulation says that the maximum length of retaining wall is 25 feet. The height of the retaining wall is not in question. The requested variance is 65 feet. So that's either over twice the allowed length of retaining wall in the regulation. I consider this variance to be substantial. Rail?
It's substantial per the numbers, but for the situation, I'm gonna call it not substantial.
Burgess?
Yeah, I disagree with the way it's answered. It is substantial compared to the numbers. It's more than half, double.
Thank you. Mike?
Yes, the variance is substantial.
Kayla?
I agree, it's substantial.
Question number 4, describe how the requested variance will not have an adverse impact on physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood. The response is, in my experience, most building codes address retaining walls differently than structures, since structures serve many different purposes and walls generally 1 or 2. Most codes applying to walls govern the height, which can be worked around through tiers or multiple walls, etc., as opposed to the length. The length of the wall is almost impossible to work around since the site dictates the dimensions. Many short, high walls would not be a replacement for this, or in most situations. This wall has no adverse impact on physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood. As previously stated, the property has significant grade change from top to bottom. Nothing we can do to change this, and this is part of the beauty of the area. We simply had to modify a small portion of it to preserve the home. I do not believe the requested variance will have an adverse impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood.
I do not believe it will have a problem either.
I agree. It will not have an adverse effect.
Mike?
The requested variance will not have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions.
Kayla?
I believe there's no negative effect.
Thank you. Question number 5, describe how the requested variance is not a self-created difficulty. The response is in regards to whether this is a self-created difficulty, it is not. The grade has existed since creation and the home since at least 1900. At that time, I assumed it did not predict the home would be damaged being in this location, and no one in the past chain of ownership has the means, methods to correct it. If anything, it is a solution to a 100-year problem. This wall is the most economical, logical, and concise method to resolve the grading issue and preserving the home. I have no knowledge as to the ability of previous owners to correct the issue or the means, if they had the means to correct it. I don't believe that the wall is the most economic method to resolve the grading issue because the wall doesn't do anything for the grading issue. I believe absolutely that this variance request is self-created. Rail.
It is a self-created problem, one of them, but I believe it's helping the total situation, so.
Burgess,
I disagree with her answer. It is self-created.
Mike,
This is self-created difficulty.
Kayla?
I don't believe that the damage to the home is self-created, but I do believe that the wall is self-created.
Thank you. Dorothy, do you have anything additional you'd like to add? Anyone have any questions for Dorothy? Everybody good? I will make a motion to accept area variance, approve, thank you. Approve area variance 2024 AV-7 Dorothy Opals, parcel number 312.20-1-39.1, 39 Greenbrier Lane, relief from local law 3 of 2019, section 3, retaining walls, length not to exceed 25 feet. The proposed wall is 60 feet.
Are you gonna change that to 65?
Give it 65 feet. Thank you.
Second.
Roll call.
Please.
Matt Palich,
No.
Real Zubel,
Yes.
Mike Bordeaux,
Yes.
Burgess Ovitt,
Yes.
Kayla Jarrell.
Yes.
4 yeses, 1 no, motion is carried. So you got your variance. We just have to issue a permit for it and then get it taken care of. And then we can move on with the other part of what's going on, okay?
What was the other?
The
part?
short-term rental,
Okay,
okay?
is there something else that I need for that?
I'll have to go back through the file and see what has been done and I'll contact you.
Okay.
I'm not in until Monday, okay? All right?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is a review of application 2024 AV-8, Brian Giuliano, 33 Woodward Drive, requesting relief from the length of a retaining wall. Wall is over the allowed 25 feet. It is 125 feet. Karen, today, is there anyone here to address Mr. Giuliano's request? Karen has contacted Mr. Giuliano a couple of times regarding tonight's application review. She received a response today that Mr. Giuliano is not able to attend the meeting. He would appreciate your guidance. This is a response to Karen as to whether it would be best to postpone the discussion until the next meeting, which we will ensure is on his calendar, or his presence is not required tonight, though we assume it may be necessary. Karen's email states, it is strongly suggested that you are here to answer any questions the board may have. They will be reviewing your application for completeness, and if accepted as complete, they will set the public hearing for the October 10th meeting. If you cannot attend and want someone to represent you, I will attach the agent form that you need to fill out and submit to this office prior to the meeting. So it seems to me pretty clear that when I can't say he's the representative for Mr. Giuliano because we don't have an agent's form signed off. But his statement as to whether it would be best to postpone the discussion, Karen made it very clear that her recommendation was the applicant or his agent be here for presentation of the application. The applicant does not have to be here to review the application, but it's always gives us the ability to get more information that is not contained in the application from either the applicant or his agent. Based on that, my recommendation would be to table action on this until Mr. Giuliano can attend the meeting.
I would concur.
Mary, do I need to make a motion on that?
I don't think so. Karen can just put it on the next agenda.
If there's no disagreement, then I will table action on this until our next meeting. Well, Mary said we don't need a motion, so unless
Good.
I say, I have concurrence, Kayla?
I concur.
Everybody's good? Okay. Acceptance of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes? Nobody has any questions, comments, additions, deletions? Motion to accept the minutes from August 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? New old business. I don't have any. Anyone else? Karen?
I do. I have one thing. Just let me finish writing this. My cutoff for the zoning board and the planning board has always been 1 week noon, 1 week prior to the meetings. At the last planning board meeting, the morning of the week before, I had one item in front of me. By 12:30, I had 5 items in front of me. I got dumped with 4 items all at once. It takes me time to get them organized, to get them scanned in, sent to you, all of the information that needs to be there, checked, et cetera. So I am requesting, and I did this with the planning board, that we change the cutoff for submission for the, in this case, the zoning board, to the Monday. It will be 10 days prior to the meeting, rather than just 1 week. It gives me a couple of extra days.
So do we need a motion or anything for that?
Not really. I just
Just
want
you
your
do what you need to do.
agreement that
I think
it's,
it's great.
No, I think, as the only member of the zoning board who was on the zoning board when we decided to make the cutoff 5 working days before the meeting,
It's your fault.
in the olden days, people would give Karen applications on Thursday morning and we'd be reviewing them Thursday night.
Yeah.
So based on that, it was changed to 5 working days. Karen's already discussed this with me. I said, I have no issues whatsoever, but it needed to be presented to the board. And I agree. So whatever we have to do, Karen, to make it, you want 10 days or 10 working days?
no, just, let's go with the 10 days, which will bring it the Monday of the week before. And we'll work with that. If it ends up being still not enough, we'll change it. But it's been this way for a while. It's just, I really got dumped on, and it would make it easier for me, and it's, other places make it a month ahead of time. So
Well, I
I don't
guess-
think 10 days is unreasonable.
No, I don't think 10 days is unreasonable at all. You want to make it 15 days? You want to make it 20 days? Do you want to make it 6
No,
months?
Let's go with 10.
Let's
for
make it
now.
6 months, because then we only have the one public hearing next month. I do have one new business item, and it's not that I have new business, it's a question for you. What is the status of the town board's selection process or search for a replacement for the short-term rental / deputy zoning enforcement officer?
We've received one application in. It is still on the website. I actually had the gentleman that sent in his application come in, and I spoke to him last week, Thursday, and I'm going to give my findings to the board at the agenda meeting next week, Tuesday.
Thank you. Mary, anything? Anyone else? Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Funny. Nice try.